For today's topic, I'm going to talk about standards of proof. Specifically, I'm going to go over the 5 standards of proof most relevant to law enforcement, what they are, how they're different, and why they matter to you as an officer. I'm Steve Serbalik, and I'm a panel attorney with ASCOPS in Arizona. As always, this is a topic summary and not legal advice. If you have questions about your specific circumstance, make sure that you consult a lawyer. The 5 standards of proof most relevant to officers in order from the lowest standard to the highest standard are reasonable suspicion, probable cause, preponderance of the evidence, reasonable likelihood of conviction, and beyond a reasonable doubt. It's probably easiest to think of the different standards like rings on a bullseye. For example, if you have proof beyond a reasonable doubt, then you have proof of a reasonable likelihood of conviction. But just because there's a reasonable likelihood of conviction does not mean that you have proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Let's go over what each standard means, starting with reasonable suspicion. Having reasonable suspicion of a crime means having actual, real suspicion. It can't be imaginary. That means it must be supported by some articulable facts, not just by a hunch that something might be wrong. If you have reasonable suspicion, this may allow you to stop someone, but without more, it won't be enough to arrest or convict anyone. Next is probable cause, which actually confuses a lot of people because something does not need to be probable or more likely than not in order to meet the requirement for probable cause. Probable cause exists where there is reasonably trustworthy information that warrants a belief by a person of reasonable caution that a crime has been committed and the person in question committed the crime. Next, we have the preponderance of the evidence standard. This is the only standard that we can accurately describe with a percentage, which is 50% plus 1. This is mostly a civil standard, and you'll more commonly see this standard in IA findings as well. It's not a hard standard to meet, and sometimes he said, she said cases can be determined by a preponderance of the evidence based upon credibility findings, but this is rare. Next, there's the reasonable likelihood of conviction standard. This is a standard used by prosecutors when deciding to bring charges against someone. Prosecutors have an ethical duty to use this standard, which is much higher than probable cause, before they charge somebody with a crime. To determine whether there is a reasonable likelihood of conviction, prosecutors take into account credibility, witness availability, and what resources are necessary to win a case. Finally, there's the highest standard of proof that we'll talk about, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, this doesn't mean proof beyond all doubt, but just proof beyond a reasonable doubt. This is the standard used when convicting someone of a crime. So even though it isn't directly used by officers, it should be in your mind when you're addressing a case. So there you have it, the 5 standards of proof most relevant to police officers. Over the next several weeks, I'll go into more detail as to the history behind the standards and things that you should keep in mind when deciding if you have enough to take certain legal actions. I'm Steve Serbalik. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there. If you're interested in watching another relevant video, click up here. And if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, click down here and then hit the notification bell to receive messages when new videos are posted. Videos are posted every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. Arizona time.